Broadcast. Broadcasting now. Going live
Hey,
in a minute.
Tanita.
Turn down.
Let me So Amaya, it looks like the way the slide deck is set up, you can go to the first slide, and then after Kathleen is on that slide deck, so you could probably just go to the first part of the slide, right? Is that way you set it up, Raven?
Yes.
Okay, so we could start there, and then when she does her introductions, of course. So I think we can start there.
We do have some attendees coming in. Good morning to everybody. We just want to take a minute just to give a few more people a chance to log in.
Hey, Heather. Mr. Watkins. Any fans out there of Miss Kathleen Taylor from KCEP Power 88 Commerce First? The host with the most, Miss Kathleen Taylor. Look at that beautiful picture.
Welcome everyone to session 2 of the Small Business Renaissance webinar series. Sumnu Marketing and the Urban Chamber have partnered to bring this webinar series to our community because these conversations are needed and the actions that need to follow are critical. The goal of this webinar series is to create a town hall-like environment where the community partners can talk about efforts in diversity and inclusion, the SWOT analysis of minority businesses, and the resources available to overcome some of the barriers and build business acumen and capacity, while also engaging the local minority business owners. This will also serve as a platform to inform the business community about the upcoming NDOT disparity study and how their participation will be necessary and may prove to be conducive to the improvement of the current systems in place. Our last session included some of our leadership from some of our chambers of commerce, and today's session will include some of our community liaisons and public works professionals. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that this information proves to be valuable to each of you. Now we will be introducing the moderator, Kathleen Taylor. Kathleen Taylor, as a former small business owner, Kathleen's goals are to supply 20 years of experience to use effective business strategies to connect entrepreneurs with community resources to ensure their success. Kathleen effectively applies her skills in small business development and economic development to create and coordinate entrepreneur educational programs. Her experience in strategic planning and program management enhances her ability to analyze the feasibility of proposed business models, concepts, and business plan development for entrepreneurs. To promote small business growth and development, she hosts the EMG Business Basics shows and co-hosts the Urban Chambers of Commerce First radio show. Kathleen also serves as a State of Nevada Commissioner for the Nevada Department of Business and Industry Commission on Minority Affairs. She was recognized as the 2019 Small Business Champion recipient at the Green Tie Awards, sponsored by the Urban Chamber of Commerce. She has been a featured speaker, panelist, moderator, and collaborative partner with the following organizations: Committed to Our Business Community event, Nevada Department of Business and Industry Marketing Initiative Team, Clark County Small Business Opportunity Program, Southern Nevada Housing Authority, Family Self-Sufficiency Program, Global Women's Summit Organization, and Women of Global Change Organization. She is a magna cum laude graduate of Grambling State University with a BS degree in biology. Now the moderator will introduce the speaker of Disparity Study. Kathleen will be introducing Shondell Newsom.
Sorry, Kathleen just had a technical difficulty. She said she got kicked off and she's dialing in. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Is she back on, or you guys want me to go? I can go ahead.
Okay.
Did she go back in? Let's see. Okay, I can get started on the disparity study piece. Okay, the Nevada Department of Transportation 2020 Disparity Study is a, we were fortunate, along with the primary contractor, who's Collette Holton Associates, to work with Erica Villas Consulting, as well as Deborah Campbell. So Sumnu Marketing, Collette Holton Associates, Erica Villas, and Deborah Campbell and Associates will be doing the 2020 Disparity Study for the Nevada Department of Transportation. Next. The disparity study is has some research objectives. We're going to provide current evidence regarding the utilization and availability of DBEs. And then we're going to evaluate the operations of NDOT's DBE program. We have two sides of this. There's a quantitative process as well as a qualitative process. The quantitative process will collect and analyze NDOT's contract data, and it will determine DBE availability. So to look at we'll scan the state and see how many DBEs we actually have that can participate in any of the NDOT programs. And also it will examine the Nevada market area economy, which unfortunately right now is not that great. However, we're going to look at it from, I think there's a SWOT where they will look at it for a period of time. Now the qualitative process is where Sumnu spends most of all of our time, is to collect anecdotal data from stakeholder organizations, business owners, through various interviews. And that will happen, most of the interviews will happen towards September, middle to end of September. And then the anecdotal evidence will help NDOT to decide, is there a program necessary to help and assist the DBEs. I know right now, Christy Eccles does a lot of work with supportive services. So this will also assist with knowing and understanding better how those supportive services will be beneficial to the DBEs. And then we want to know who should be included in the program, what annual overall goals should be set, how should contract goals be set, what program elements work, what needs improvement, and then how to make the best changes to ensure everyone has full and fair opportunities to compete. Business owner participation in the qualitative process is critical. So those of you who are members who run member organizations, please help those folks who are business owners understand that it's crucial for them to respond to the NDOT disparity study. Then participation. We want small group business owner sessions tentatively are scheduled for September 14th and will run through the end of September. Electronic survey to business owners tentatively are scheduled for October 2020. Written comments accepted through the process will be email or through the website. So the disparity study contact information is Disparity Study. Disparity-study.com, and then the study email is study@mbelaw.com, and then we have a telephone number there as well. We'll put all that in the chat space, if you will. And then we'll talk to our panelists. But I saw a note from Christy to encourage small business owners and DBEs to participate in the study. But did you have anything else to add to that, Christy?
Well, I think the biggest thing is really people, and Shondell, I know you and your team will be doing this, is understanding the value of your participation and what that's going to bring at the end result. You talked about that's what helps set the DBE goals. So if we understand what DBE certification and the value of that, all of this ties in together. So it's really good, I think, for people to understand this is not just you guys out there gathering and spending hundreds and hundreds of hours of interviews and things like that, but they take this data, they put it together, identify any barriers, any disparities, and then there's solutions at the end of the day that NDOT, in this case, NDOT's disparity study, in years past, some of the other agencies, RTC as well, is able to take that and put together whether the supportive services, increase, decrease goals, all those things. So this is great information. Get involved, listen to what the outreach teams are putting out there to really understand what the disparity study is and how it benefits the program and the community as a whole. So just an extra little plug for that. Thank
you so much for that. Now let's give it over to the incomparable Kathleen Taylor.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much to the Urban Chamber of Commerce and NDOT in collaboration with Sumnu Marketing for allowing me to moderate this distinguished panel this morning. And I do apologize, I was experiencing technical difficulties earlier, but I am back in stride again. And it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panelists. And it's such a pleasure to know each of them as well in some capacity in the small business sector. So first, I would like to introduce Christy Eccles. Christy established in 2012 the Paragon Group and set out to bridge the gap for small, women, and minority-owned companies, private and public entities. Christy has become the go-to resource for small, diverse business development and certification in Nevada. Paragon works closely with organizations, private and public, that are seeking diverse business owners. Also, the Paragon Group partnered with the Nevada Department of Transportation, serving as their DBE supportive services consultant. And as a result of this partnership, they recently launched last year the Resource Center, which serves as a hub for certified small, diverse business owners that work on transportation and highway projects. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Christy Eccles. Yay!
Good morning, everyone.
Also, it's my pleasure to introduce Tonita Brown. Tonita is with the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada, RTC. Tonita joined the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada in 2010. Her current role as DBE Liaison Officer requires her to develop, implement, and monitor the RTC's DBE program plan with regard to federally funded projects. Tonita assists small businesses with developing capability statements, preparing bid documents, also helping them with pre-submittal conferences, and she facilitates one-on-one meetings between prime prime contractors and small businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Tanita Brown.
Yay.
Yay! It's also my pleasure to introduce Ms. Annabelle Navarro. She's with the Nevada Small Business Development Center in the SBDC, and she's a business advisor. She has been with the Nevada SBDC since 2014. Annabelle speaks Spanish, English, and has experience or expertise in small business creation, business plan guidance, retail, business management, marketing, financial analysis, and also she has owned several businesses herself in the retail industry. Also, Annabelle enjoys working with minorities, owned businesses, and also being a Spanish instructor and presenter as well. She has recently been recognized a couple years ago as the 2018 Women in Business and Politics Award recipient, and also the Urban Chamber of Commerce 2018 America's SBDC and Nevada SBDC State Star Award recipients. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Annabelle Navarro, good morning.
Good morning. You're like, yay!
Yay!
It's fun.
And it is also my pleasure to introduce to you Kevin Rayford, who I affectionately refer to as the professor. So Kevin teaches management and accounting courses at the College of Southern Nevada. He is also the advisor for the CSN Entrepreneurship Incubator and partners with the Nevada Small Business Development Center. Kevin is the Nevada SBDC Nevada Grow Manager, which is an initiative that provides data and analysis for companies to grow their business. He sees the enormous potential for global economic diversification based on the talented students emerging to change the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Rayford. Yay!
Good morning.
Good morning. So with this being said, and I'd like to reiterate how important it is, Shondel's overall view of the disparity study, and also Christy's comments as well. And now we have an esteemed panelist to basically put into perspective some different elements of how they are engaged in the disparity study. And it's absolutely critical as a DBE, as a minority-owned business, your engagement, your voice, because it is your voice, your engagement and participation that drives the data. You know, there are times when some of us may feel that, you know, we don't have a voice, we don't get a say, or we're not invited to the table. Well, this is your table, participating in this disparity study so that you can write the narrative. We are in the midst of given the dynamics of COVID-19, we are in the midst of a small business renaissance. And your participation will drive the narrative to say that DBEs and minority-owned businesses, you are qualified, you have the capacity, and you are available to complete the scope of work with various contracts that are available. And with this being said, we want to look at the word disparity. The root word of disparity is parity. We want to make the shift from disparity to parity for DBEs, from inequality to equality for DBEs. And this is a platform in order for us to have our say to do so. So your engagement, your participation in this disparity study cannot be stressed enough. So with that being said, I'd like to pose a question to one of our panelists. Tanita, I'll start with you, please, with this question. And in your experience with small companies, what do they need to do to start a business, and more importantly, to make it attractive for contracting in the first place. So given your experience at RITC with contracts, with engaging with small businesses, with the contracting dynamic, what are your thoughts on that, Tanita?
So I would say to begin that they would need a whole lot of heart and confidence to be able to get out there and sell themselves. I don't have a small business of my own, but I do believe that it is quite a daunting task to have to have the wherewithal to start a business. So from there, from the level of confidence that they would need to begin and then move to finding their particular niche. Find something, not try to do everything, but find something that you can perfect and you can sell it. As when we work with Contract Connections and the capability statements, we have received quite a few, worked with quite a few small businesses, and they have quite a gamut of things that they can do, and that's great. But you need to focus on that one item and make sure that you perfect it and move with that particular business mindset.
That's some really good points, Tanita. And this is a good segue into a question that I'd like to pose to Christy. So Christy, given that you, and I've seen this happen myself, you are very instrumental in connecting the dots with people to resources in the community. So how important it is that DBEs, small businesses, integrate how to cultivate relationships, how to access key resources, to the point to where it does provide them with leverage so that they can find a fit for a specific project or contract for their business. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so great question. One of the things, and I totally agree with what Tanita said, you do see a lot of small business owners, especially when they're first getting started, that they feel like that they don't want to leave anything on the table, and covering the gamut of that. And so they do come in with, I can do all the things. But with having really niching down, like she's saying, and then working with some of these contractors, you began to build those relationships. You begin to research, you begin to study, you begin to know what their needs are, and then how you really can fill their needs. The value that you bring, what are the solutions that you can bring to the table? And I believe that's really where those relationships comes, and also that the courage and the confidence that Tanita was talking about, is because then once you're really comfortable with that you do well, having those relationships with the contractors or entities, whoever it might be, other things may open up for you. But a lot of that starts with, I know Ray is now retired, but one of Ray Marshall's favorite things he would always talk about is, we do people with who like and trust, but also that ready, willing, and able. So there's that part of that as well that he would always mention on that. So I think that it's really critical that you do get in there, you build those relationships, because that is going to open the doors for you for some of those other things.
And in building relationships, it does open doors for engagement, for connecting the dots to key stakeholders in the community. And that's really what we're here to talk about, amongst other things, is the key and critical role that engagement plays with our DBEs and minority-owned businesses. Now, you touched upon, both you and Tanita touched upon, how important it is to specialize and to provide or carve out a niche market. From my experience as a former business owner, I learned that, not all money is good money. And I'd like to bring in Kevin with your thoughts. So when you have a small business or entrepreneur and they're going through the development stage and identifying their target market, their niche market, And like Christy said, it's more of a broad stroke for some of them that, oh, everyone needs my services, everyone can benefit from my products. How important it is for small businesses to do their due diligence in researching their market and customer base, especially with the fantastic tools and resources that Nevada Grow provides. What are your thoughts on that, Kevin?
Thank you for the opportunity. That's a very interesting way of putting it, Kathleen. And I think that that's something that businesses definitely need to do. And I think Christy sort of touched upon it, but in order to build that trust, and I would say trust is a major factor now for a small business, and people need to know, since they really can't see you as much as they used to, trust you, know that you've got a serious engine behind you and that you're a very legitimate firm and industry. So what I would say is you very deep dive, and that's what we do at Nevada Grow, is get all the data you possibly can in the industry. Know the backgrounds of the major players, know what the movements are, know what the trends are. And when you can walk the walk and then do the talk, it gives you a lot more credibility and trust. So what I would say is do your research. When you think you're done with your research, do 10 more hours. Get as much data as you possibly can. Understand what the ancillary services are. Understand who the collaborative relationships are. Know who you can partner with. Know what's going on globally. I mean, definitely do as much information as you can and get those forms out there, be able to verbalize them, and always have a lead behind. Show somebody that, wow, I really understand this business, and then they'll trust you, and they'll look at you not only as a business partner, but as an internal consultant. And most large companies, they want their small businesses to be pretty much their partner and their consultant, their quote unquote category captain, as Walmart would always say. So definitely get as much information as you can. Of course, we can help you with that in Nevada Grow, but all the panelists who are here can help you with information, and they're all fantastic resources. But I would say definitely get as much data as you possibly can on the industry and on the individuals. And that's what we do and help you with that perspective.
Thank you, Kevin. And Annabelle, given that you are the small business owner or entrepreneur of several businesses in the retail industry and also fitness industry as well, from your experience as a entrepreneur or small business owner, and currently your role as a business advisor at the Nevada SBDC, what, looking at some elements of the SWOT analysis, such as strengths and weaknesses, what are some common things that you see that you feel that are needed for minority businesses in reference to what strengths do they need to compete? And what are some common weaknesses that you've seen as well that need to be addressed? What are your thoughts on that, Annabelle?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. So I work every day with small businesses and mostly minorities. And what I see is lack of education in business. So they know the technical part. They know what they are mechanical, they are construction, but how to run the business is the major problem that I see. What we think is the financial education is missing. People doesn't know how to do a budget, how to do the projections, or
Yes.
when they present the project, sometimes they get short in expenses. So they have a problem now because they are running without a profit, the business. So we encourage, like Kevin says, research as much as you can in the industry. What are the common expenses of the business that you're running? And then make your own projections so you don't get lack of money. I mean, like it's the first thing that I see. Another thing that I see is people is afraid to do a marketing campaign. What we see is people need to have all of those things in place before placing a bid or something, because the people is doing now is seeing online, who are you? So looking the platforms, the social media, so you don't know how to do a plan, hire someone. There is people that goes from the small budgets to a big budget. So depend on your budget, but do a budget. Make a budget for marketing. That's the key. So you don't do, I mean, people has a websites and don't say what they do very clearly. So starting from that. the marketing. They don't have the target market very defined, and it's very broad, and the people doesn't know exactly, see, I can fit in your company or no, or it's too expensive for me, or it's a good, I can do a good estimate in your cost. So all of these things, the marketing is something that the people has to walk in very carefully, because it's easy, but at the same time it can be dangerous because you're giving the bad image of your product or service.
Absolutely. And I'd like to touch upon a couple things. One is trust, and also how to market to government entities for state and federal contracts, because that's a bit of a different dynamic within itself. But going back to trust, and a couple of our panelists emphasized that word. So historically, with communities of color, when it comes to the word study, it may have some type of visceral, automatic, default emotion response of distrust. So even within business, having trust, it definitely creates a solid foundation for everything to be built upon. So I would like for each of you to, and starting with you, Christy, because you are in partnership and collaboration with NDOT and their DBE program. What are some like 2 key points you'd like to convey to business owners or DBEs that are on the cusp of thinking about participating in this disparity study, or or it's not even on their radar? What are 2 core things that you would like to convey to them that NDOT, this disparity study, is to your benefit? There is no downside to it. It really is a platform to hear your voice, so that DBEs can help write the narrative. So regarding a couple of statements of trust, any thoughts on that? Christy?
Hopefully I can answer. Well, you're asking some tough questions today, Kathleen.
Happy Thursday, everyone.
Happy Thursday. Sure glad I got my cup of coffee. You know, with the disparity study, related to, I think, if to kind of answer your question in the best way that I can, I did work on the disparity study a few years ago, and it was eye-opening for me as you know, a subcontractor coming in, and understanding at that point I really didn't have, had not been involved with anything at that point. But what I would say is, for one, and you kind of touched on already, it's a great way, for one, for your voice to be heard, the good and the bad. It's not that a disparity study is going to bring out all the bad. I mean, because there's a lot of amazing things that these organizations and entities do, that they work. And over the years, you've seen each entity that has had a disparity study that they're continuing to improve programs and things to support small minority-owned firms. If anything, for one, it's a great opportunity to share your voice, your experiences. I had the opportunity to actually interview many small business owners, whether they were women, minority owned, as well as some of the prime contractors. And what it was a great takeaway, a great lesson, and so this can kind of go on both sides of it, was really the education part came out of it. That was the biggest key. That was where, as a community, as a resource center, or where as an agency, whatever those results and how it came out, what more value can we offer? What are the solutions? But also it's great for the small business owners to understand and see what they need to do. Yeah. What can I do to better myself? What can I do? I love what Kevin talked about, the research, the education. I actually worked with Kevin years ago when we were very start of Grow. And I remember one of the guys asking the question, you know, what research do you need? Well, at that moment, I had no idea. I don't know what I need. So being able to understand, find these resources using the disparity study that can help you maybe kind of guide a little bit of what, maybe what are some of the agencies or some of the general contractors, you can start to see what they're needing, where are some of the gaps and how you can come in perhaps and maybe fill that. But going back to, we're kind of on the word of trust. And if I could say this, it may not be so related to the disparity study, but more of maybe working with some of these different agencies, private, public sector, is when you come and serve with excellence in everything that you do, and you put every client first, no matter how many clients you have, and you provide value to them, specifically to them for what they're looking for. That trust, that's going to begin to build that level of trust, listening to them, identifying what they need, and what they need may not be the same thing that your other customer or your other client needs. You begin to just listen to them, understanding that value again. And if you're doing everything with excellence, Shondell and I like to have this conversation often. When you come with that level, you're going to build trust. And so it didn't, at that point, it's not going to take much after that as you continue to grow and expand and bringing value of working with those agencies, because they want to make sure that they're doing business with, they know, because you take on, you're representing them. You kind of, in our case, I'm representing NDOT. So, everything that I do, I speak, I need to understand their language. I need to understand, their market, what they're doing. But if I show up and that's how I'm serving, I'm going to build that trust. And not only for that agency, but others that they work with, as well as prime contractors. It's going to be a domino effect of opportunities when you begin to build that. You're going to build that in the community. Again, you can tell Shondell and I do a lot of stuff. They're your brand champions.
Yes.
They're going to be out there, the ones sharing that for you. At that point, sometimes you may not have to do a whole lot of marketing after that, because the trust and the relationships that you have built, they're going to just kind of become a domino effect and a segue from one to the other. I hope that answered your question, because that was a kind of a tough question to pull that together.
Absolutely. And you pulled it together very well, Christy. Thank you. I'd like to transition over into the marketing piece that I was stating earlier. So Tanita, what are some things that small businesses need to know when it comes to marketing to entities for contracts? Because it may be a little different in the marketing and engagement aspect. So given that ROTC has a variety of different contracting opportunities for businesses, how does one market with a DBE officer such as yourself?
So my suggestion would be because most of our work, most of the RTC's work is civil. We rarely, very rarely have vertical. So I would say if you are, for instance, in inspection services, or if you're doing, we have roadway projects, I would suggest that they are very well versed in that particular area, and it is their expertise. It's not someone that they're hiring on their team to do the work. I speak to that because we recently had a project that was out, and most of the people that we interviewed, or persons that we interviewed, they were, as an owner, they were uninformed when we were asking questions. So I'm just saying, if you're going to market yourself to work in a particular area, make sure you know what it is that you're doing.
Yes.
As Kevin, I'll allude to what Kevin Rayford said earlier, do your research.
Yes.
Make sure you're familiar with the types of work that these particular entities, be they government or private, you know what it is that they're doing, what they are looking for. And be prepared for whatever it is that they have. And to me, the most important thing is, if there is a site visit or something of that nature, especially for the government entities, make sure you attend.
Oh, wow.
Don't rely on do not rely on just the plans, because there are nuances to each and every project, and the plans may not cover them. So just be sure to know your type of service. Be really very well informed.
You know, and speaking of being informed, the resource center that recently launched for DBE certified DBEs and their development to address their strengths, their weaknesses, how to make those connections or relationships, how to tweak their business model so that it does make sense, so that they are prepared for that opportunity. That is an excellent center. And you know, what I find interesting is if it were, at least to a degree, if it were not for data being generated from the disparity study, then NDOT would not have had a informed platform to say that, you know what, based upon this data from this disparity study with DBEs, this resource center would address a lot of A, B, and C in their development to position them better. So again, that is a prime example, ladies and gentlemen, if you are a DBE, a minority-owned business, how having your voice, how engaging, how participating in this how powerful the data generated from your voice is in this disparity study. We went from having no resource center at all for specializing in certified DBEs to actually having one based upon your voice, based upon the data that was driven from that study. So we can't emphasize how important and critical it is that you participate and engage this time around as well. So with, you know, we have a lot of expertise, experience, dynamic speakers and panelists right here. And I know that we're coming upon our Q&A with the audience. But before we do that, I'd like to go around the circle, so to speak, virtual circle with our panelists and ask any pearls of wisdom, closing remarks, or anything that you'd highlight in closing of our panel discussion. So why don't we start with you, Kevin, the professor.
Myself. Excellent. Thank you for the opportunity. And I'll be brief and I'll just boil it down to one word. And I would just say specifics. Let us help you be very specific. When I say specific, I mean precise. You mentioned earlier about, you know, being able to service clients. Know what your hours are. Know what services you provide. Go into detail about the industry. If you're going to be a tech company, you say you want to supply computers, make sure you're very clear on processor clock speeds and whether they're going to have open AGP slots, no motherboards, no hard drives, no chassis. I mean, make people's eyes glaze over to show you're an expert in what you do. And so what I would say is, for a small business now with all the information out there, get as much data as you possibly can and be very precise and very specific on what you can provide, because when you go for these bids, they're going to want you to give a really good solid amount of product detail, and they'll know whether you're faking it or not. So let us help you be specific and know every discussion you have, understand the real nuts and bolts and get very granular, get into the weeds and the products and services you can deliver. So I would say be very specific in this day and age.
Kevin, thank you so much for emphasizing on, you know, don't fake it. All of, you know, this whole dynamic of fake it until you make it, that does not, that will not position anyone or any business, especially at that level. So thank you so much for emphasizing that and being diligent in your efforts and knowing your product, your service, your business mission inside and out in order to compete. So thank you for your comments, Kevin. I'd like to also move to Annabelle. Annabelle, any highlights or pearls of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience in closing?
Well, one of the things is be ready to present yourself. Mm-hmm. The speech elevator, practice and practice and practice in front of a mirror, in front of somebody. I mean, you have to sell yourself. So be ready to present what you are, what you do, why you are there, because you want to do the next step. You have to be ready for that. Yes. And the other part is to, so you want to grow, now the credit score is essential to grow. The banks are getting hard to give loans to people because the situation for the COVID-19 and the credit score is getting down. So we have problems qualifying people for loans. So be ready to get rampant again to credit score as soon as you can, because it's something that you're gonna have to confront sooner or later.
Absolutely. And you know, you touched upon being prepared for the presentation. And you know, the old saying is first impressions says everything about a person. So being prepared to maximize having that one-on-one conversation with a potential buyer or liaison officer that is in a position to communicate with you, and you communicate with that person about your products and service and how it brings value in the marketplace. So preparation is definitely a key element. So thank you so much, Annabelle, for your comments.
You're welcome.
And I'd like to continue with Tanita. Any closing comments or pearls of wisdom you'd like to share?
Thank you, Kathleen. Of course, I would like to state that most of our small businesses need to make sure that they educate themselves once again, and also ask questions. If you are not familiar with something and it's not on our World Wide Web, ask questions. Contact the entity. Contact the supportive services. They're more than happy to help in any way, shape, or fashion. The RTC, me personally, my information is available to you on the website for rtcsmv.com. We work very closely with Sumnu. You can contact them, but please, please use your resources and ask questions. This is not easy. Almost every entity I am aware of, we do things differently. So please ask questions. That's it.
Thank you so much, Tanita. And I really appreciate how being persistent in one's quest to open a door, and when that door closes, a window is open. So being persistent definitely pays off in your development as a DB to access resources. So well said. Thank you, Tanita. And also, Christy, any closing comments, any points you'd like to emphasize during this time?
Absolutely. Tanita actually took a little bit of what I was going to say, but I'm going to expand on it just a little bit. And so, so one thing is, if you ever hear something probably more than once, listen, because that means that it's happened, and that's a nugget for you. But be okay to ask for help.
Yes.
It does not matter if you are a new startup or if you have been in business for a long time. You may be amazing at your trade, at what you do, but it may be the operations. Annabelle, you mentioned that earlier. It may be understanding finances and things like that, and you don't realize the end of how, especially in construction, making sure that you understand job cost accounting, all those things, how it can play into you winning bids or not. So be okay to ask for help. And the second that I want to say is, if it's a fit, and I think for the audiences that we are talking to today, get certified.
Yes.
Your certification is going to bring you so much more value than you can ever imagine. And each different agency, depending on what you do, whether you're certified as a WBE with WeBank, an MBE with Western Region, a DBE with the, whether it's NDOT, McCarran, or RTC. Each of those agencies has so much resource, whether it's our center, if McCarran has it, or RTC, and it's going to be specific to that you're performing with them. So we have obviously the NDOT DBE Supportive Services and Resource Center that's geared just for heavy highway construction and transportation. So the resources we provide are going to be geared to that. If it's in WBE certification, you're going to know that's more gaming, maybe private sector, hospitality, etc. And there's construction as well in that. But again, have your resources around you. Surround yourself with people. And if you don't know, Tanita mentioned this too, if you don't know where to go to the chamber, go to the urban chamber, ask them, who do I need to go to to help guide me in this. Each of us resources that are here today, we provide very similar, but very different. We partner with different ones. We're not the business plan or marketing experts, so we're going to connect you with those who will. But if you need to know NDOT contract compliance or how to do business at that level in the private or public sectors, public works, that's where you're going to go, or certification. So if I could just say that, one, be okay with asking questions, asking for help. I think that was mentioned a little bit last week on, or the week before on the panel. You know, don't suffer alone, you know, ask for help. And then if it's a fit, please get certified. There's so much value there.
Thank you so much, Christy, for those comments. And again, I'd like to thank our esteemed panelists, each of you, Christy Eccles, Kevin Rayford, Tanita Brown, Annabelle Navarro. Thank you so much. It's been such an honor to moderate this panel. And I really appreciate your expertise and your time this morning. And now I will turn it over to a representative of Sumnu Marketing or the Urban Chamber of Commerce to facilitate the Q&A section with our audience. So thank you again, panelists. Well done.
Okay. Good morning again, everyone. My name is Raven McSwain. I saw there were a couple comments throughout the presentation. The first comment came from Jordan Calderon. Jordan said, Kevin made a good point. Trust is very important to consider when scaling a business. Understanding your clients, your partners, and yourself builds that trust. He said he runs a hands-on digital marketing agency that helps find your target audience and increase revenue through results-centric strategies. They work with small businesses, mostly owned by women or minorities on the West Coast. He said he would love to connect with anyone in this presentation or attending this presentation. Just shoot him an email, and his email address is located in the chat. Mel Green asked if this seminar would be recorded, and yes, it will be recorded, and you guys will be able to get a copy of the link to access this recording after it's been completed. You guys may have noticed I was sending you all messages asking you to sign in on the attached Google Doc sign-in sheet. Shondell Newsom said, understanding your company's DNA is extremely important. That is where you get your best value. And he also said, great information. Relationships are very important. Fake it till you make it is not real. Miss Paulita De La Cruz added her contact information. She is a DBE specialist with NDOT. So if anyone is interested in getting more information about getting their DBE certification, she is available to assist you. Jordan Calderon also added his contact information for LinkedIn for those of you who would like to connect with him via LinkedIn. And Christy Eccles provided information about the NDOT DBE supportive services and the Resource Center. And she also said, if you are a small woman or a minority firm in the construction industry, join us at the Nevada Construction Association Diversity and Inclusion Council the third Tuesday of each month at 2 p.m. You can visit www.nvcontractors.org for more information. Okay, if there are no other questions, do our panelists have any additional comments? No.
Well, I'd like to say one thing. You know, I thank all of you because I know how much work you guys put into everything. I know Annabelle, Kevin, Tanita, and Christy put a lot of work. What I'll ask the people who are joining this, please spread the word. Let people know that they don't have to suffer in silence. We are all struggling to get our businesses back to where they were, or even get beyond that point. And all of these resources are available. I still say that this country that I served in the United States Air Force for a decade is still the best country in the world when it comes to providing resources. And today is the birthday, I understand, of the SBA. So a lot of them are supported by the Small Business Administration. So remember, don't suffer in silence. If you are starting a business or you're thinking about starting a business, or as Christy said, if you've been in business for a long time, make sure that you don't suffer in silence. Make sure that you reach out to these organizations and get things done collectively so that we can all win and we can provide jobs to our community.
Great. Well, thank you all. Thank you to our moderator and our panelists, as well as all the attendees. I see Kevin Rayford also dropped his contact information in the chat box. And Sally Dobler said, well said, as always, Shondell. Thanks for your leadership in the business community. Heather said, thank you for the pearls of wisdom. I appreciate the opportunity to hear from the experts and the resources in our community. All right. So we won't hold you guys. I do, again, thank you everybody for joining us. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to send an email to info@sumnumarketing.com. We do have another, a couple more sessions to this webinar series. The next session will be 2 weeks from today, and it will be with some of our elected official representatives talking about the small business policy. So please join us for that one as well if you are available. We will send out additional information to all attendees.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.